Friday. Good to see you. It's 9:03, and I'd like to start the regular meeting of the Board of Directors for ReGen Monterey. So I call this meeting to order. Ida, roll call, please.
Chair Shirley.
Here.
Vice Chair Delgado.
You will be a little late.
Okay. Director Blackwelder. Director Askew.
Here.
Director Barber. Director Garcia-Arzola.
Here.
Director McKee.
Here.
Director Pedori.
Here.
Director Brent.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next is public communications. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No one online, no one in the boardroom. All right, I'll close public communications. We'll move on to consent. We have items 5A through 5F. Directors, is there anything you'd like to pull from the consent agenda? Not hearing anything or seeing anything. Would the public like to pull anything from the consent agenda? No? Okay, I'll come back and I'll accept a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Moved to approve by Director Garcia-Arzola and second by Director McKee. Roll call vote, please.
Director Askew.
Aye.
Director Brent.
Yes.
Director Garcia-Arzola.
Aye.
Director McKee.
Yes.
Director Pedori.
Aye.
Vice Chair, Chair Shirley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, our next item is 6A, presentation of resolution 25-06 to Robert Wellington, legal counsel Wellington and Rafi Law. So I have a resolution here. I can go ahead and read it. All right, resolution of appreciation to Rob Wellington, whereas he was selected to serve as legal counsel in 1973. And whereas he and his firm have served the board of directors by providing sound legal advice for ReGen Monterey committee meetings and board of director meetings. And whereas his counsel to the directors, the board, and organizations stem from an extraordinary expertise earned by his long-term commitment to the public sector, which can be measured in generations. And whereas he has consistently guided and advocated for ReGen to be the most transparent and ethical agency possible. And whereas his knowledge of historical information provided the general manager and the board of directors with critical context for evaluating past decisions that would shape current business practices. And whereas he has supported ReGen Monterey in its pivot from a disposal-based organization to a waste diversion and renewable energy-based organization. And whereas while he served as legal counsel, ReGen Monterey has received numerous awards, including the best solid waste system in North America in 1998, all while accomplishing its mission. And whereas he served during a key period of ReGen Monterey development, including the opening of the Last Chance Mercantile, a landfill gas to energy plant, the implementation of a modern refuse collection agreement, the permitting and sitting of the first anaerobic digester in California, and the expansion of the materials recovery facility, MRF 2.0. And whereas his guidance on legal, contractual, and ethical matters were always delivered with deep knowledge, compassion, and humility. And now therefore it be resolved that Board of Directors for the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, doing business as ReGen Monterey, hereby commends and expresses its appreciation to Rob Wellington for 52 years of service and wishes all the best in his retirement. Passed and adopted this 18th day of April 2025 by the Board of Directors.
I'd like to say I'm sort of overwhelmed. I remember we did this back in November, and so to do it again, I just, I'm overcome. I'm not gonna babble away like, you might recall back in November, I had to tell you a lot of stories. And I will refrain from doing that, but I'm truly overcome. I'm so pleased to have Bob here, who's done so much of the work for this district as well. And I want to say that it's been my great pleasure to work for this district. You all know, those of you who've been on the board, the staff all knows what a wonderful district it is. And I think you're at your peak, as I recall it. You can remember the stories I told you back of what we did back in the 70s. You've got a great board. You have wonderful staff folks here, great general manager. I mean, you've just continued to improve and expand. And it's the district does so many wonderful things that most people don't even have any idea about, I think there might be 2 or 3 people that still recall this as the dump. And it's so far from that. And so it's been my great pleasure to have served this district, and I wish you well. You've got a great law firm replacing us going forward. I've known that firm for a number of years, and you're in good hands, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Picture?
Yeah, or do you want to
Or maybe let's do the next one and then we'll do total pictures. All right. Thank you, Rob. Okay, next is a presentation of resolution 25-07 of appreciation of Bob Rathie, legal counsel, Wellington and Rathie Law. So let me go ahead and read Bob's. So resolution of appreciation to Bob Rathie. Whereas he has served ReGen Monterey with dedication and distinction as legal counsel, and whereas he and his law firm have served the board of directors by providing sound legal advice for ReGen Monterey committee meetings and board of directors meetings, and whereas he has consistently guided staff and stepped in to assist staff whenever needed, without hesitation, providing unwavering support and legal advice and providing timely solutions to challenges. And whereas his approachable demeanor, effective communication, and invaluable legal advice has significantly contributed to the organization. And whereas his legal expertise has left a lasting positive impact on ReGen Monterey. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of ReGen Monterey hereby commends and expresses its gratitude to Bob Rathie for his outstanding service and extends best wishes to him upon his retirement.
I thank the board. Thank you so much. It's really unexpected and an honor to receive this recognition. And I thank staff and Felipe, your general manager, capable general manager. I just want to thank also Rob for providing me the opportunity to be associated with this fine agency. And I echo everything that Rob said so well. And one thing I just wanted to say real quickly, municipal law representing public agencies is kind of it used to be described as a niche practice, but I don't think it's that anymore. I think it's much broader, as Deborah will understands as well. There's so many things involved, but one of the real privileges in representing public entities is the opportunity to have a long-term relationship, which is not always the case in other fields of law, but really, as an attorney representing an agency such as ReGen, you can really take pride and watch your accomplishments and watch the agency grow. And it affords us that opportunity to share that with the board, with the management, with the general manager, staff, and all the employees. So I thank you for that opportunity very much.
Oh,
Thank you.
please.
Sure.
Think you're involved there too.
Thank you so much.
Gonna get the picture here.
Okay,
Am I out of it?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bob thought we might want to stay and comment on all the agenda items. We're just going to sort of, at a certain point, wave goodbye and leave. So thank you. Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
I just want to send my appreciation to both Rob and Bob. You know, I was very green at the public aspect of being transparent, also understanding the public practices and understanding how we had to communicate. And I think one of the things I really learned in having a sound partner was the ability to pick up the phone, call somebody, be reassured that they were going to help me address it. I'm really excited to have our new Deborah on board as well, Deborah Miller, taking over the partnership. I think we're going to continue that. You know, Bob in particular was there for me quite a bit when I needed help. Rob as well. It was a tag team of an experience for me, so I'm very excited for both of you guys to retire and you guys continue with your one plan. But for me, it's been great growth. You know, in a short period of time, I really didn't have that public experience. I have it now, and I feel like I'm in a very good position, continuing to lead the organization forward. But without your guys' expertise, I would still be very green at it. So thank you guys for taking the time and the effort for helping me along. Thank you.
That's very nice. All right. Okay. Any other additional comments? Okay. All right. We'll move on to 7A. We're in discussion and action items, and this is the report on the March 2025 financial review from Garth.
Thank you, Chair. You know,
How are you guys?
thank you, Chair. We'll have Garth Gregson reporting the agenda, and as everybody is aware, this was an item that used to come towards the end of our agenda. And at a request of our Director McKee, we wanted to bring this up sooner. It is the crux of our business and really looking at our business position and our financial views. So we're going to give it the attempt to put it up front of the agenda, and we're pretty excited to have Garth today. And Helen, thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We are now 3/4 of the way through fiscal 2025. And where we stand thus far is our revenue numbers are about 2.8 million below plan at about $40 million. And that shortfall is all coming into tip fees. And that's reflective of lower volumes that we've been getting from many customers, including our biggest customer, Green Waste. Our operating expenses, though, are under plan by about $760,000, which is helping a lot. And net income for the year to date is 4.6 million versus budget of 6.1 million. So we're about $1.5 million behind budget year to date. And we are about 275,000 below the point where we were last year at this time as well. As far as material received in March, we got about 67,000 tons of material, which is about 2,000 tons lower than the prior month. And the number of the material received each month, tends to stay in the same range of 65 to 70,000 tons a month. Our diversion rate continues to be in the mid 60s for the entire MRF, and we're doing fairly well there. One item worth noting is in the month of March, we did have a noticeable drop in our cash balance, and that's because we had bond payments of 3.4 million that were paid in the month. So that's where we are through March. Any questions? I'd be happy to take them.
Great. Any questions? Yeah, Director McKee.
And looking at the summary page, the next last column is better, worse than budget. And I just find it interesting. Revenues are down 7%. And operating expenses are down 2%. Needless to say that it has a big effect on operating income. It's down 35%. And as we sit here today and kind of say we the same place we were last year, we made it back. What are our plans to offset these declines as we go into the full year?
Well, as far as the revenue side of it, we're looking at what the tip fee projections are, and we're kind of faced with a couple of situations where Green Waste has dropped their volume. We've seen another drop in this month, April, as well. They're just delivering less material, so there's really not very much we can do in that regard. We have not got any new customers coming on board. Fortunately, the MRF continues to stay strong. You know, we're shipping a lot of material out of the MRF and the commodity prices are staying high. And again, that's an area we don't have a lot of control over because we get paid whatever the market prices are for the MRF commodities. But that has been a pretty strong area. The power revenue, we're expecting to have a bit of a pickup on that. And we've had a lot of maintenance issues with the engines at the LFG. We've had to make some major repairs and improvements. And so we're expecting those engines, all 4 engines, to be coming back online very soon. So we should see some help with the power revenue between now and the end of this fiscal year and then going into fiscal 26. On the expense side of things, things are pretty consistent and they are pretty much under control. We don't have any big expenditures coming up, any big expense items, which will be a positive thing between now and the end of the year. Although what will probably be the biggest items will affect the LFG because we're still improving the engines at the LFG, making sure they're all up and running. But otherwise, everything else on the site is functioning pretty smoothly, and everything is looking positive from an expense standpoint.
If I could add, Chair. Chair.
Sure.
It's a great question, Peter. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. It is an item that we're addressing right now through our preliminary budget. We're really looking at items that we control. So I do have a list that we will be going back to our preliminary budget and adding to, and I think I could share that now. The LFG projections, they were year over year decreasing from its position, but we really want to go back to our preliminary budget and look at our LFG projections. There are certain things that are going on in LFG that are transpiring right now that we could make some assumptions around better projections there. The other one is our op expenses. We're below our op expenses year over year, which is a good indicator for us. It's not enough to cover the full expenses. So we'll look a little bit at operational expenses and mitigating some of those expenses. Where's the have tos? Where's the nice to haves, and readdressing that in our preliminary budget. The other one is the LFG power. There's an assumption that we could get our 21 kV transmission line over to Monterey One Water, which could increase the revenue stream from the sales of electricity. That one's hard to quantify because it has to come online. Then we have to start distributing, and then there's a wait period before we can start doing. But we want to assume that to mitigate some of the risk that we have in our budget with shortfall of revenue. The other item is that we're working on is we have consultant working on credit assumptions for the organization. You're all aware that we introduced the LOCI system. There's potential credit applications that we can fill and revenue stream that will come from. So we'll be very curious of how we can inject a little bit of that forecast into the next year's budget. And finally, when we give up revenue in contracts, and you'll see some of the items that we are attending to right smack 3/4 into the budget, we were informed about some dispositions around our revenue. We have a disposition in revenue, but we will also have a stronger position with our landfill life. So evaluating when we lose revenue, what does that mean in landfill life and expanding the life of the landfill? So there is, it doesn't always look so good when you're not having the revenue that you anticipated to have. But in return, when we don't have those contracts bringing volume here, we get landfill life back, which comes back to the member agency. So it'll be a balanced approach to reduce the impacts of the shortfall on revenue for this next fiscal year. We really had a strong strategic plan with our workshop. We invoked the philosophies around CPI plus a revenue goal. The nice thing that we have is we had an 11-year period to work this through. And I really want to reassure the board and the board of directors and the staff that we're not going to fall face first in this next year. It is an opportunity for us to really monitor the changes that we want to imply and impose on as we start reducing external agreements and bringing up our volume. So it's part of the plan. I just felt really excited until I heard we were going to have a shortfall in revenue because we had an early exit of an agreement that was lasting for 30 years. So I was pretty excited that we were gonna be able to take a giant leap in year number one. It may be a small step, but then we still have 10 years to make that evaluation as we continue to move forward. But this is exactly why we put those philosophies into play. At any given time, anybody can decide, I want to do something different with where the trash is going. We have to be prepared for it. I think the board has been supportive, staff has been supportive, and we're on the right journey. It just, for me, was a sock in the stomach because it was impact to the revenue as we thought we were starting to project forward. But we have 11 years to execute that plan. So there's gonna be things that we bring back in the final budget that are a result of the shortfall of revenue that we're seeing in our preliminary budget. Thank you for the question, Director.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Director Burns.
You may have already covered that in how you're gonna forecast expenses related to the shortfall revenue.
Yeah.
But are there, like, in the very short term, when you get less material in, are there measurable cost savings? Not the kind we wanted, we didn't anticipate, it, but by having that less volume, or do we have to have those expenses regardless?
We have to have those expenses regardless, right? And this is where the theory comes in, is how much can we reduce at a certain pace, and we keep up with those expenditures that will solely rely on member agencies to forfeit forward. So at this point, I would say we want to do it at a small incremental pace rather than trying to do it all at one time. But we're not gonna save people and equipment time. We still have a large volume. This is a small increment of it. And as we start reducing, I say by 2036, when we're losing 25 or 14% range of volume externally, then we can start looking at less equipment wear, maybe less hours, less guys in overtime. But for all the other operations, they will remain the same, still same volume going into composting units, same volume still going into the recycling units. It's really our 15-man team that we have right now in operations that we would look at adjusting as volume decreases significantly and maybe not on such a small increment.
Is there something, I'm still new to this. I mean, do we have a sales force? How do we go replace that business? At some point, we may realize that it's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's permanent. So is there some way to be more aggressive at replacing that with local business?
We could, while local business is flow control is coming here, it's really external businesses. And again, I think in our philosophies and guiding principles, we called out a planned approach where if we had someone interested in 5 years of term, what is the planned approach to utilize the revenue stream that's coming from them and not utilize them for daily operations? We should better run our daily operations based on our gate rate revenue and keep that intact. It's when we surpass what we're earning in our gate rates and not have all the kitty to pay for all our business needs that we have. Great questions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from directors? All right,
Okay.
thank you, Garrett. I actually had a quick question for Deborah. Deborah, we don't usually go out for public comment because usually this is in another section, I think, but I mean, I suppose I could open it up for public.
Yeah, I would
Comments.
recommend that with
Yeah.
each item on the regular
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah,
Have
okay.
that opportunity.
I'll open that item up for public comment. Okay, I'll close it. All right, thanks. All right, 7B, discuss the preliminary budget, accounting 2025, -018.
All right, thank you, Chair. At this time, we're gonna have a short, probably 8-slide presentation. It'll give us some context to the preliminary budget. And again, I think I gave you context of what we're gonna approach when we take the preliminary budget and your guys' comments back, to come back with a budget version in the next month.
Good morning again. The preliminary budget, which we've all had a chance to look at, covering fiscal 26. Are we working here?
Yeah, do you want to forward? I thought you were doing intro.
So here's a summary of kind of like the major items in this year's fiscal 26 budget. Rather, we've got a approximate 5% increase in disposal fees. MRF revenue is projected to increase about 14% as we're continuing to have high commodity prices and we are processing slightly more volume, sorry. Power decreasing 33%, and that's kind of based on the trend we've had in the past couple of years. And that could change depending on the success we have getting the power up and running and we get the connection with M1W functioning fully.
Or, sorry to interrupt you. Ida, could you minimize that
Yes, I'm trying.
panel? Sorry. Perfect. Thank you.
Better.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Okay, and so overall total revenue is expected to increase about 3% from the fiscal 25 budget and about 13% over the fiscal 24 actual. Employment costs are expected to increase about 7% from the 25 budget and 17% over the fiscal 24 budget. The increase in employment costs is due to step increases for existing employees, COLA adjustments, and higher workers' comp costs and an expected higher health insurance costs. And also we have now built in a $500,000 discretionary payment for the PERS system. We made one of those in January of this year, which wasn't budgeted, but now it is included in the fiscal 26 budget. So non-salary expenses are going up about 13% over the 25 budget and about 6.8% over the 24 actual. And net income is decreasing from the 25 budget by about 43% and increasing about 45% from the 24 actual. Other items that we still have to finalize, the workers' comp insurance premiums, we have an estimate of what the premium is going to be from SDRMA and finalize our liability and property insurance premium. And we need a current org chart. But the largest item that's now open is the fact that the Watsonville landfill will be reopening, which will have a pretty large impact on our operation. And we'll talk about that a little more. Here's just a breakdown of the revenue. Tip fees continue to be the largest portion, 75%, and then the MRF at about 20%, and power revenue about 2%, and other revenue 1.1%. And the other revenue are things like sand sales, HHW materials, certified weights, and other miscellaneous fees that we charge customers. The disposal revenue mix broken down into our customer type categories. We have our franchise customers, which are basically all of the local peninsula cities. And we've got our commercial customers and self-haul customers, which are all independent customers bringing material here. And then the regional customers, which are the green waste and the waste connections and Scotts Valley and Watsonville, and all of those customers are considered regional. And this slide breaks out green waste because it is by far the single biggest customer overall, and certainly a big chunk of the regional customers. And so the makeup of this revenue mix does not really change much from year to year, stays pretty consistent as far as where material is coming from.
Carl, before you move on, can I add a little bit to the last slide, please? So I just want the directors and staff to recognize the two separate pies, those regional green waste pies and the regional other. We're gonna start seeing those separated. In the past, we had seen them all combined, which makes up pretty close to half the volume, almost half. It's very relevant, but the goal was really to focus on that green waste customers. We do have other customers that are regional customers that we have to keep interested in. We have to keep our awareness around them. Those agreements go out to 2050. But like we're experiencing with Watsonville, there's also outs of those agreements, so we have to be aware of them. So we're gonna be very curious as we round this year to keep them separated for a reason. And then we want a little bit more awareness around those regional contracts and what's occurring in those municipalities was a suggestion from our staff is how do we assign key role members to monitor some of the activity that's going on, so we don't watch the forecast news and then realize, oh, one of our customers is gonna be taking their material somewhere else, as was identified. It was really tough, for me. One, because we sent out notifications that we were having our gate rate increases and we had proposed X amounts. That would have been an extremely good opportunity for them to reach out and saying, by the way, we're expecting not to deliver this stream of material over to your facility in the next fiscal year. We have not heard nothing to date. So we'll continue to be curious and we'll investigate. We'll spend some time with our attorney to review the agreement and the notification periods and what are the consequences of it. But this is why we are going to be very reactive to knowing that scenario of being a shortfall of 1.8 million, and then going back to those areas where we can try to extract a little bit more to limit that risk and liability. And we'll have other wins along the way, like the power connection, where we could get 2 or 3 times that amount of value in the power sales out. So we're gonna have to be very aggressive with our team to execute on these items so we can mitigate those challenges that we've had really late in the game. I would say we're 80 or 85% done with our budget process. And then to get this right now, it really throws some challenges for the organization that we want to overcome when we bring back our final over this preliminary budget, because there was definitely some glaring concerns when we look at the preliminary. Thank you, Garth.
But it's a great time. It's better to find out last week than next month.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're exactly
And so
right.
it's perfect. I mean, it's during the process and you can take steps.
And to your point earlier, right, this is why we go through the budget process, so we can analyze every little thing that's gonna happen or potentially could occur in the following year. And we get an opportunity to interject the challenges and the changes that we wanna make to our.
Well, it's exciting to hear the enthusiasm from staff and from management of going forward, that there's issues, but the issues are workable and you're working on it.
Absolutely, yes.
One plus, which is maybe not what everybody wants to hear, is we'll gain landfill life. You know, if that material is not coming here, then they're not gonna be putting material into the landfill here, which will, in the long run, will be a benefit. But anyways, we'll probably talk about that a little more later. Personnel expenses, our biggest chunk in personnel expenses is in the salaries and the wages number. And then health insurance and then PERS, you know, so those are the big dollar items in the personnel. And then again, the makeup of that pie does not really change dramatically from what it was last year. Very similar in terms of you know, how much is going into each portion. On our workers' comp, you know, we have been told that our experience rating is not changing in fiscal 26, which is good. You know, usually it means if your experience rating changes on your workers' comp, it's usually going the wrong way, which is a reason for increasing the insurance premium or workers' comp premium. And we've estimated a 7% increase in the healthcare. We don't have a number as to what the actual is going to be, but 7% seems like a fairly conservative estimate for fiscal 26. This just illustrates kind of what the major operating expense items are. So the recycling services, that is almost entirely Keith Day primarily, you know, all of the wood waste and green waste material that he processes. It also includes all of the freight costs that we incur for hauling all of the MRF products from here to whatever port they're going to, but it's mostly Keith Day. The repairs and maintenance is all of the money spent at the shop, keeping all of the mobile equipment operating, and it also includes the maintenance on the LFG site, the work that's done out there. Environmental services is what is that? So that's our required things we have to monitor, like our water quality and our air quality. And, you know, we have to pay for testing to be done on the air and the water. And then we have, you know, fees that we have to pay for our permits in that regard. Operating supplies, the biggest portion of that is equipment rental. We rent a certain amount of equipment here on site for various landfill related actions. Professional services is primarily legal and HR support, and also our audit fees go into that number. Taxes and surcharges are the fees that we pay to the county and the state for various things. You know, the biggest part of that is the fees that we pay for the material that's landfilled. You know, we pay $1.40 to the state per ton, and we pay about 85 cents to the county. Outside services are things like temporary employees, alarm system services, and various miscellaneous things like that. Office expenses is primarily the IT support and equipment that we consume here on site. We had capital spend for next year. The budget is a little over 7 million. These are just kind of the major items that are in each of the two categories, the mobile equipment and the capital improvement projects. The capital mobile equipment is, you know, pretty much speaks for itself as to what it is. So some of the capital improvement projects may not be quite obvious as to what they are. And, you know, Felipe, if you want to kind of
Sure.
speak a little
I
bit
think
about
the two-
LFG management and stormwater management.
Yeah, those are the two big items, and we asked ourselves those questions, is what is in those numbers? So when I look at LFG management, that's looking at the old equipment that we have in our landfill gas to energy plant. But we also utilize third-party supports for new infrastructure, which is Amoresco and Western Energy. We're expecting that some control panels will have to be replaced. They're older technology, probably need to be rebuilt. Looking at the blowers and other maintenance to the flare, and also other expansions, extending gas wells and extending our gas wells as we continue to extend our landfill fill area capacities. And then also looking at other construction projects like Anthem and other consulting services under the LFG management. So it's one that's really important for us and one that we're expecting to deliver a significant amount of revenue. So we did want to make sure that we had the improvements needed so that we can have better uptime and better upkeep and the better results in the financial position of our landfill gas to energy plant. When we look at the stormwater management, there's quite a bit in that as well. That's armoring our roads for the winter wet pads. It requires aggregates and some engineering aspects so that the roads stay intact throughout the winter and the wet season. It has contractor services in there, erosion control installation for the sites of the landfill areas, hydro seeding, wattle, storm drain installations, material costs, rentals, and some of the oddball equipment we need when we're developing our winter areas, our drum roller, long reach excavator, mini excavator, and lastly, cleaning out all the stormwater drains in preparation of rain season. So that's all within the stormwater management, but we're gonna take a good look at it and see if we can help shrink that down really to alleviate some of the revenue offsets that we have. So we have some opportunities in there, but those are primarily gonna be some big focuses for the organization as we move into the next fiscal year.
And then the final one slide to look at here is our bond debt service and our ratio covenant that we are required to meet. So this just summarizes kind of what the cash situation looks like, you know, how much cash we're going to be generating, consuming, and then breaking out some of that cash into the various reserves and other designated areas that where we have cash. So we've got our cash operating reserve, which is our 20% of operating expenses. And then we have our capital infrastructure, capital equipment, closure, post-closure, and environmental impairment fund. So at the end of the day there, we've got unrestricted cash or undesignated cash of about 5.5 million. And we are making our bond covenant, which the requirement is 1.25 of revenue to cover our debt service. And so we're at 3.16. So we're well above our limit. And we have always been well above the minimum requirement in the debt covenant. So that's kind of a quick look at what the fiscal 26 budget is, and I'm sure there will be many comments and questions.
I want to add a little bit to the discussion around the cash, restricted, unrestricted, and designated cash. It's, you know, it was a position in 2021 where the organization refinanced their 2015 bond. So that's how we have this cash set aside. Was the district went and refinanced the bond to have the cash. It wasn't cash that was processed through the gate rate and we put it away and we have this big K. My assumption around why they did that was to finish building the items that needed to be completed. The transformation from Winrow to CAS, transforming what we want to do with LFG, also pinning in a future MRF of MRF 3.0 and what the needs are going to be in the future. So as we start finish building our castle or our home here at ReGen, we're gonna see our cash position shrink down, but that should happen. That cash did not exist because we intentfully put it away. It was pulled out so that we can finish some of the capital projects that were inherited from one legacy to another legacy to another legacy. So understanding that as we finish completing projects, that the cash is going to dwindle down. But we have done stuff to offset dwindling down that cash. That's creating the operating reserve, creating a capital reserve, an asset reserve. So we've started creating those reserves so that we can function. But we really want to get to the point where we use our annual operating revenues to cover all our costs in an annual year. But we got to finish building some of those capital projects that were started but not completed. So I really wanted to add some of the color to why we have that big bundle of cash and how we're going to be applying it into the future, into projects. And the board is going to have that understanding that that's what it was intended for us to finish building the ReGen public services that we're going to be designating to the communities. So that cash is going to go down, but the work that we're doing on the side should get us to a point where we can operate annually on our revenue and then start projecting the expenses that laterally go with it, and then use some of those reserves for those special projects or special needs that we may need in future times.
As we go through and do these expenditures over the next few years, I think it'd be worthwhile every time to show the cash. Yesterday was 5.4 million today, and we're working toward 0 or working toward $1 million, whatever the number is. But show, are we above or below? Because we're always going to have cash.
Yes.
But we may not have enough cash. And so if you could share that with us.
Okay.
As we go forward.
Sounds good.
All right.
Any additional questions on this item from the directors? I think the board is, or I think staff is looking for directions. Or any additional input as we see this draft budget.
I'll give some comments.
Sure.
You know, we have an opportunity, so staff is gonna take those bigger line items where we feel we can readdress, rehammer down, and come back with some offsets to the impacts that we're having with the Watsonville agreement. And then you can look forward to seeing that in the final draft. As we get ready to put those out, I'd be happy to take questions around the draft as we put it out prior to our next meeting. So we're gonna finalize it and get it moving forward. So staff is ready to run with some of the offsets that we can go back in and revisit in the preliminary to get to a final budget.
And we'll see this again I know we'll see this in the finance.
Yeah,
committee.
and
Will the personnel see this as well?
finance and then the May board meeting,
Okay, so not the personnel.
not personnel.
Okay, okay.
Well, unless you wanted to. could. We have done it in the past.
Yeah, right. That's what I thought. Okay, Wendy and then Chaps. Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, so thank you for the presentation and all the detail in the report. I think it's helpful to see it and hear it once or twice. And it's interesting. I've been spending a lot of time reviewing budgets in almost every board and body I sit on, and I think this is maybe one of the only bodies I sit on where we're not in triage mode, responding to what's happening at the federal level, having to make cuts as in response to loss of federal dollars or the potential for loss of federal dollars. And I'm like going back through my mind, I'm thinking like, we don't have federal grants, I guess. And the state dollars that or the state mandates that we're working to implement wouldn't have we're not anticipating any direct changes to those.
No.
So there really aren't any immediate risks that we're planning for, thinking through, assessing for in this budget.
Right, we're not aware of anything that might be coming down the pike that could bite us, in terms of any, federal or whatever.
Or even at the state level,
Even
where
at
the
the
state
state.
would be impacted and they would trickle down back
All
over to
all
us.
our
or-
revenue comes from gate rate and the borrowed money from the bonds, but there is no state line driven dollars coming from the state nor from the federal government, nor are we getting grants where
Yeah,
that could be affected.
I couldn't think of anything as I was sort of rolling my head through the list of options, but I wanted to ask the question out loud.
We do kind of keep an eye on like our tonnage fee that we have to pay. We pay $1.40 per ton to the state. And it's been $1.40, I'm told, for over 30 years. And there's occasionally discussion about they're gonna increase that fee one day, and if they do, it'll probably go up to like $5 or $6 a ton from $1.40, because they've never increased it since like the mid-90s. So.
And the market that we send our recycled products to, do we anticipate that changing significantly over the next year?
No,
No.
not really. They've the last 2 years, they've been very stable.
Okay,
And if anything, there's been a slight uptick in the commodity prices.
okay,
So, we're not anticipating anything happen. We're not getting any information from anybody, any brokers are not, they're not telling us that, hey, this could happen or this will happen. Everything seems to be okay.
all right,
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think here domestically on our recyclables, the value may continue to hold itself because the need
and everything else
will be
changing.
here, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, ask the question, there we go, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment in terms of federal dollars, that we don't necessarily have to worry about that, but I know when we think about credits
Yes,
for the LoC system,
could
that could very easily change, so we certainly don't want to bank on that, knowing that, that may not be there, but we should still investigate whether that's
Yes,
gonna be
yes.
impactful, yeah. Director Paduri.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the presentation too. Really a couple of quick questions. Does this take into account the proposed disposal fee increase that's coming in July?
Yes.
It does. And then the other question was the LoCi, the one that the board approved. Where does that get into, which section of the budget will that get into with respect to any revenue, I would say consistency or revenue increases or efficiencies that will come into play?
Well, it should impact our power revenue, our LFG power revenue number, and that we will be getting more useful gas out of the system we have in place, and then we can turn that into power, which we can sell. So it answers yes, it will have a positive impact on our revenue. That was one of the big selling points.
Right. Is that accounted for? Is that like to be decided when it comes in?
Well, the LoCi system it's in place now, today. And we haven't really added much, if anything, to our revenue side of things, because we're still getting our LFG system fully functional and up to speed again. So until we get all 4 of our engines fully functional, generating power, we're not going to see, the full benefit of the of the LoSi system, but it is doing, it's doing a lot of things that we would have had to do manually. You know, instead of having somebody walk around the site checking all the gas meters, you know, this is all automated. And as I said, we're getting better quality gas. We're seeing, you know, more current up-to-date information on what's coming out of the gas field. So overall, that's helping. But today, we can't really quantify and say it's helping us by this many dollars in terms of revenue. Because the LFG system is kind of in a state of flux right now as we're getting it organized. We're going through a lot of reorganization of the LFG system.
I just want to point out, we got three engines running. 2 at max power, 1 about 3/4 of the power. We're waiting for parts to be shipped out for engine number 1. And then we'll have all 4 engines running. Then we're gonna go to the 1 engine that's not at max power. We're gonna do a decoking system. But from 2 weeks ago, we had only 1 engine running. At one point, we had no engines running. So the team has mobilized. We pulled some resources from our shop. We had hired a manager a while back to be the LFG plant manager, and he's doing a significant job. So we're on the right track. This is one of those items, Director Fedori, that we're gonna go back and try to quantify some of those gains, and it will be in the landfill gas department where we will see those gains for the LoSi system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just say that, noting that we, especially on the revenue side, we're reliant on one big kind of contract moving forward. I know we had a workshop earlier in the year, but I'm looking forward to seeing how we can come to some strategic direction on what we need to do with respect to pursuing other contracts or not as we get into the next fiscal year. But thank you for this presentation.
Thank you. All right, any other additional comments, Dr.
Wasn't there-
Director Theo?
If I remember right, there was a grant connected to the CAS conversion.
There
Is
is.
that potentially at risk?
No.
Okay.
Because it was approved prior to, I think it was approved in 2019, so the funds are still available for us to draw.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. Thank you.
Well,
Any additional questions? Okay, take this out for public comment. Any public comment on this agenda item? No, bring it back. All right. Thank you, Gareth. Much appreciated. All right, we'll move on to 7C, authorize staff to schedule a public hearing for the fiscal year 25-26 rate increase.
thank you, Chair. At this time, staff does not have a desire to alter the pathway of the revenue pathway that we discussed in our guiding principles, our workshop, and we do want to move forward with a public hearing on the increases that were proposed initially for the increased revenue for ReGen Monterey.
Okay, good. So yeah, this is what we discussed at the board meeting last month, and nothing has changed since then. Yes.
Have you had any public pushback at all relative to what we're doing?
I have not.
Is it out there enough that everybody's heard about it?
This has been communicated to all the haulers, and the haulers have communicated this to the municipalities, and so the municipalities should be right in the middle of a request from the service provider. So if you have Greenways as a provider, they're requesting their price increase, which will include our disposal component in it. So there is awareness around it, and there'll be even more awareness as the cities start approving the pathway for their hauler increase that includes our disposal
And
component.
so far, we've had no pushback.
I have had none.
Are you surprised by that?
No, because every year since I've been here, I've been advocating for some sort of gate rate increase to keep up with our employment increases that we have annually. So yes, it's hard to do one without the other. And since we really want to do a really good job of taking care of our staff and our personnel, we have the funds to continue to do that if we desire to continue the pathway.
And we have been increasing the gate rate since you've been here every year
Yeah.
for very good reasons. Is this larger than some of the previous years? Can you remind me?
5% was probably every year that I've been here.
Yeah,
And this
okay.
is a little bit over 5%, but we did it selectively this year. We did intentionally did more on the MSW so that we can continue to get the recyclables, the organics out of the waste stream. So if you're putting it in your trash, you're paying more money for it to get rid of. If you're segregating it out, you'll get the discount rates on the organics or the food waste or the recycling commodities. So it is intentionally designed to keep people in the recycling mode.
Yeah, I like that approach.
The contracts that we have with the 7 or 8 or 9 cities, is it a fixed rate contract or does it have a variable rate that as we increase these costs, it just rolls? I mean,
The disposal costs in those agreements, from what I'm aware of, are usually pass-through components. It's the other components that the cities can change, right? They have to provide you the backup data for their employment costs, their expense on maintenance costs, their fuel costs. They'll have more components than just the disposal. Those are the ones that you can say, we want the backup to justify these increases. The disposal is the only one that's a pass-through when they bring them to the city.
All right, any questions, additional questions on this agenda item? No? All right, I'll open it up for public comment. Any public comments on this agenda item? No, this is agenda item. Okay, so it looks like we need a motion to approve this item so that we can move forward with a public hearing at our board meeting for next month.
I'll second.
All right, so first with Director Garcia Arzola, second with Rudy Askew. Thank you. All right, roll call please.
Director Askew? Aye. Director Burke?
Aye.
Director Garcia Arzola?
Aye.
Director McKee?
Aye.
Director Pedori?
Aye.
Chair Shirley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to 7D, report on the technical advisory committee for March 12th, 2025.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Zoe Schultz, Director of Communications. I'll give an update on the Technical Advisory Committee meeting that we had on March 12th. Item number 1 that we discussed as a group was a marketing campaign to increase awareness around food scrap recycling in Monterey County. It's a joint campaign that's funded by CalRecycle SB 1383 grant funds. So your jurisdictions have pooled together money and provided it to ReGen Monterey, and the Valley jurisdictions did the same thing with Salinas Valley Recycles. And then we're joining together in forces for a countywide marketing campaign that in total is $128,000, almost $129,000. And we'll be doing quite a bit of media, should start around August or September. And there will be traditional media, there'll be new digital media, and we also have some fun projects that we'll be working with leaders and influencers in the area. One of them will be working with Enid Rice. She's a professor at CSUMB in the art department, and we'll be doing a installation. Her students will be doing an installation on Scribble Hill, that's the sand dune adjacent to Sand City, as well as local muralist Hanif Pani, who has done quite a few murals in Sand City and around and is quite popular. We'll be doing a mural installation on the peninsula and one in the Salinas Valley as well, helping to encourage food scrap recycling. So more to come on that, but just wanted to share a little bit about the different mediums, and I'll share more next month as it relates to the approach that we're taking creatively for the campaign. Item number 2, we discussed there is a MOU that ReGen Monterey has with each of your member jurisdictions, if you recall, for SB 1383 compliance activities. This is also a shared cost activity where we hope to bring your individual member agency costs down and pool all of our sources together and help you with compliance with SB 1383. So at this meeting, we just discussed how much each agency would be contributing as it relates to their population, and also some minimums built in for some of the smaller cities to ensure that they're participating. But those budgets were shared with your staff so they could be incorporated at your jurisdiction as well. And item number 3 was just encouraging staff to schedule approvals for both the green waste rate increase at 7 of our 9 member agencies, as well as that MOU approval. And so we'll bring that to this board next month in May for approval, but the MOU, that is. And then the rate increases and the MOU will come to your councils for approval in June ahead of implementation on July 1st. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Zoe. So
Sure.
our jurisdiction should already know what that MOU amount is.
Correct.
We can start budgeting for that, but then we have to approve it first before it becomes official.
That's been the way that we've done it in the past, is we brought it to this board first. That way you all are really aware what those totals are. And when they go to the councils, your various councils, you have a little bit more information
Yeah.
than maybe the rest of the folks sitting on your boards or councils.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for Zoe?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll open it up for public comments. Any public comments on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, close that. All right, we have no other correspondence, so we'll move on to general manager communications.
All right, it looks like I got about 55 minutes to go.
I know, this is a record. Okay.
I got quite a few, so I'm gonna take my time through them. First, I wanted to start off with Earth Day. ReGen Monterey invites you to celebrate Earth Day, not just today or this month, but every day. Our staff works hard to preserve landfill space for future Monterey County residents, which embodies ReGen's mission of doing more to waste less. So pretty excited about the Earth Days. We're gonna jump right into the Marina Earth Day, ReGen Monterey. Tabled at Monterey Earth Day, Marina Earth Day in Lock Patton Park alongside our iconic public education bus. The volunteers, families, members, and public in attendance engage in thoughtful conversations while playing ReGen sorting game. We also encourage each year by the impressive level of environmental stewardship and creativity at Marina Earth Day. Thank you for allowing us to take part in a wonderful event. We look forward to attending Carmel's and Seaside's Earth Day events. And at the end of the month and starting in May, we'll attend Pacific Grove's Good Old Days. Just wanted to emphasize the amount of effort that goes into the Earth Day. I received a comment back from Mayor Delgado from the city of Marina, so that was where the Earth Day was coordinated. And because he's seen our comments here and our GM comments he put out, thank you to everybody that supported. So since we have a little bit of time, I think it warrants all the work that goes into an Earth Day. Thank you to Laura and Scott for donuts and bagels to start off the day on early morning Earth Day. Thank you to Pete and Gabe from Public Works for setting up the 150 chairs and 45 tables at the Rock Han Community Center. Thank you for the City of Marina, Monterey Regional Parks District for staff, co-sponsors to be there to help set up and organize. Thank you to the champion supporters, Sierra Club, MPE, Green Champions, Chuck Hagen Conservation Fund. Thank you, Calgary Baptist Church. Thank you, Green Waste Recovery. Thank you, Whole Way Chinese Restaurant. Thank you, Randy and Pete from the BDC to bring a box truck at 6:45 a.m. in the morning. Thank you, Dan Lundrum for both the Monterey County we've ever had and professional level photographer at the same time. Habitat for Stewardship. Thank you, Steve Lee, for Communities, a statement of Monterey County Treasurer and help getting volunteers to all the assignments that were done. Thank you, and Edmund Basker for volunteering to organize the Fun House Workshop. Thank you to JJ Hogg for the band, including the guitarist, Papa Hogg. Thank you to Kathy Biella for months of quality toy shopping to ensure every child went home with one. So you can see the level of work and detail that goes into having a successful Earth Day. I appreciate our staff, ReGen, for going out and participating, but also seeing the community's engagement to produce the best outcomes for an Earth Day. I really wanted to give my thanks to Mayor Delgado for the support that he has from his community to deliver such a wonderful Earth Day. So thank you to Mayor Delgado. Moving on to the LOCI system. If you guys are up to the news, we had LOCI was featured in the Monterey Weekly. It was also in the Waste Advantage magazine that goes out to a lot of public and private collection companies, whether it's post collection or in collections. So we were featured for the automated landfill gas wellheads that were recently installed. The wells were put into full automation on April 10th, and we're monitoring the system. So far, everything looks great, and we'll have more visibility about more around our gas system in the future. So thank you to the Weekly and David Schmaltz for helping us put the story together, and thank you, Zoe, for coordinating that to make that happen. Item 5, the Western Regional Symposium is a SWANA symposium where myself, Associate Engineer Katie O'Connor, Senior Communications Coordinator Eric Palmer attended the SWANA Western Regional Symposium from April 8th to April 10th. The symposium is one of the leading solid waste conferences in the state, featuring sessions on new technology, landfill construction, regulatory compliance, safety, and many other topics. Eric was our spokesperson during the public outreach track. He presented about ReGen Monterey strategies for battery collection systems and communications about battery fire awareness and prevention. The session was well received, with many attendees saying that they want to bring back recommendations to their agencies. With awards recognitions for our communication project and conference sessions on the topic, ReGen is leading the conversation about important global issues. So we really want to thank Eric. He's made a couple of attendances at different conferences in the last month, so a lot of effort from our team to deliver. Finally, I'd like to talk about the other conference Eric attended, where we were recipients of 2 awards. ReGen's Director of Communications, Zoe Schultz, and Senior Communications Specialist, Eric Palmer. I'll see Kristen O'Hara here as well. But Eric and Zoe attended the California Association of Public Information Officials. ReGen was honored to receive 2 awards of distinction from over 500 entries in the categories of photography and video production, public service announcements for our charged conversation battery video. Zoe and Eric were also able to connect and learn from their peers in cutting edge communications tools and trends. And I'd like to share with the public and our staff and our directors that we were recipients of 2 separate awards, one from the video and one for how we communicate our messaging through social media. So Eric, Zoe, Kristen, Franco, we appreciate all you guys. And my final communication is I hope everybody has a safe, happy Easter this weekend. Be safe, be kind, and enjoy the family that we all strive to take care of and we work hard to be with. So thank you guys for all your guys' dedication to ReGen Monterey, and thank you guys for all your efforts.
You have 45 more minutes.
Oh, 45 more minutes. And that will conclude my communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Felipe.
Yes.
All good news. We'll move on to board communications. Any communications from the board or directors? Yes, Cindy.
I do. Thank you. I just wanted to say we haven't had our first personnel committee meeting of the year yet. But having been assigned to personnel committee at the last meeting that I was at, I did take a look at our performance review procedure and timeline yesterday, which does indicate that the process starts in April. So I think with the April Personnel Committee, which we are not having, so we will be starting a month late. And I did just bring copies of the timeline that we approved last year to be working off of. So I was going to share this with the board just so that we all know what process and timeline we've worked with in the past, and we can pass this that way. We can bring that up, and I look forward to getting that process started at our May Personnel Committee meeting, according to the process and timeline that we've been using in the past with our team.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing it up. It is an item that was brought up, and we are going to stick with the same format. We just reviewed it all last year.
Fantastic.
So we're going to stick with the same format, same evaluation. There's just different things to evaluate now, so.
And I will say, I love this process and timeline. I've used it now as a template for 2 other committees, boards that I sit on. And it's been great to be able to use it. I've used it as a template. So thank you for sharing it and allowing us to copy it. So that was my announcement for today.
Thank you, Director Torres.
Thank you.
They're using your template. Yes.
Thank you. All right, any other board communications? No? Okay, great. Thank you. With that, I'll adjourn the meeting and we'll see you in May for the Personnel and Finance meetings at the beginning of the month and next board meeting on May 20th. All right, thanks, everyone.